But it's good to be back. We'll get into all of that on a new segment called Toxic Takes. We're introducing for the first time. We'll get into all of that. But before we do, let me introduce the show. I am your host, Godchild, the first of his name. Joined once again by my man, T-Unit, a.k.a. Well, not a.k.a. Tom of the Green Bay House, a.k.a. if you don't mind, T-Unit. I know you were a little
T-Unit
at one point in time, but
I don't know how I feel about it.
But it was your idea. That's the funny part.
I know.
It's not like I came up with it. You came up with it, and then I was like, "Oh, I love this name." And now you're like, "I don't know."
I don't know.
But it's like I fell in love with it as soon as you said it. But I just thought it was so clever.
We'll have to keep workshopping it.
But yeah, we're joined again. Episode 32. You got any nominations you want to drop for episode 32?
Travis Jervey.
Whoa, who?
Oh, look him up.
Running
back.
Okay,
I believe.
Travis Jeremy. Why Travis Jeremy? Why is episode 32 the Travis Jeremy episode? What about him?
You, a famous 32. You remember him, don't you?
I don't know if I do.
He was kind of a fan favorite, I would say.
What
back in
back in the what?
Well, he's 50 now, so he was rocking like 95.
90, yeah, okay.
Dude, 90.
Travis, man, no,
I mean,
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. That my memory doesn't really stretch back that far for a guy. I mean, I can remember like your Bubba Franks and your Aaron.
This guy actually made a Pro Bowl.
Okay, made a Pro Bowl.
97.
Not quite as illustrious as our episode. Oh, we already missed.
I believe it was as a special teams. I believe that was as a special teamer, though.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say we got immediately off the top of my head. I think Brandon Jackson was a 32, and I remember like I used to kind of interact with him for a little bit. But there's gotta be some other good 32s out there, man. There's gotta be some other good 32s out there.
That was the two that I could think of.
Okay.
And actually, I didn't even think of Travis Jervey. My buddy brought that up this morning.
Okay.
Because you knew we were gonna pick a player.
Oh, so he might be the person he's the one who critiqued.
No, that was a different person.
Oh wow, we actually got some people listening. All right, man. Look at man. You see, you're adding so much to the show, man. You're actually
adding a lot of value.
You've added so much value to the show. You're bringing people in. You're like the man on the street. So you said you're going to be going to. Okay, did I even officially? I feel like I officially started the show. We just kind of jumping right in here, which isn't bad. Your first day of practice, first day of the training camp. I was going to mention again. You were going to be there. You said you're just going to the New Orleans practices, though, right? Or you hit?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And when do those start? Is that next week or?
No, those are until like the 12th or something.
Okay,
no,
so
like the
2 weeks in. Okay,
they're like the 15th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting, man. Look, I mean, I think that's a good place to start. Training camp day one, faces in places that they haven't been for. Well, I guess they have been there, OTAs and things like that. But I mean, now it's official. Like the program has started. Everyone's there. Everyone's has to show up. Everyone did show up, of course. We've got people injured. We can talk about that. Big news out of that department. And just the interviews. Did you get a chance to listen to any of the interviews?
I heard a little bit of LaFleur.
I
saw some clips.
I heard LaFleur.
Saw a couple clips.
I watched Aaron and I watched Goody Kuntz.
I mean, I saw the highlights.
Yeah,
I liked what I heard. I liked what I heard.
You like what you heard, right?
Yeah, for the most part. These guys never say anything. It's always you just look for the little clips here or there, but I don't know. It is, I think there's some already to kind of start the year. I'm a little bit disappointed in a couple of things.
Ooh.
I already feel a little nervous.
Ooh, so is this going to be your toxic take? Because you were all up for it when I say we should do toxic takes. You like for sure. Let's do toxic takes.
I don't think it's a toxic take, but
it's a need for concern.
I think it's more of a validation of what we feared all along, which is that Bakhtiari is 100% finished. If there was any doubt in anyone's mind, I just think the big fella is not coming back. He just had another surgery that we didn't know about.
Well, that was cleanup. That was the most concerning, but and that was the most concerning thing was that they just kind of just like, he had a third surgery. We were like, what?
Third surgery. Think about that.
And then they said they didn't want to disclose when that actually even happened. So I mean, they were very sneaky about that. I mean, but I guess I don't know if they have to disclose that or not. And then just honestly going back to the original diagnosis, it seems like they weren't completely honest with how bad it was to begin with. Because now it wasn't just an ACL tear; it was a much more significant injury, as if they knew all along. So it's like, I don't know, that makes me really question the fact that they put him out there in that Detroit game. It's like if you knew it was that significant and it wasn't just your typical ACL, why would you rush him back before he was 1,000%?
It's very concerning for sure.
He says. I honestly don't care what you think, David, if you want to come back or not. Our doctors are saying, and our science is saying, and the medicine is saying that there's still a chance, and that this thing was so bad, we've got to take it slow.
Yep. So you think at this point the media will just leave the topic alone, or is this going to be something like last year that we ask about every single week?
I think it's going to be something they ask about every single week, and unless I guess. Yeah, either way, I was going to say unless the offensive line plays really well, but I think either way, people are going to find some way to bring up David Bakhtiari as long as he's not in the lineup. Now, while you felt a lot more disparaged about it, I will say that I was definitely concerned, but I guess maybe not surprised because it has been taking so long, but I was definitely like, wow, about the third procedure and the fact that he's on the PUP. And he's going to be starting the season. I mean, he might not even be ready to start game. I definitely do not expect him to be ready week 1, So it's like, but for some reason, like, and whether it's just Gutekunst and LaFleur and Aaron kind of being really, really optimistic or blowing smoke up our asses or trying to like misdirect us and kind of let us down softly when they all know that he's done. But it didn't seem like they gave that feeling. Even though it's like it's very unfortunate and it's a headache and it's a whole bunch of other issues. It's problems for David, his mental, and Rodgers talked about that. Like and it sucks as fans and whatever, like critics or whatever you want to call it. Like we get on here and we just kind of talk about the X's and O's. We do try to remember that these are people, but it is like, that sucks for him for sure. This is a terrible injury. All the setbacks, the procedures. I mean, I know it's got to be tough for him to stay positive, but I mean, he does have a kid on the way, which I'm sure probably helps. That's a whole new thing that you kind of distract you sort of from like just dwelling on the negative thoughts, So he's newly married, so I'm sure he's got a great support, but it's still like, that's a tough one to deal with, man. Injury and
it's terrible.
And the fact that it's off track and off schedule and taking longer than you anticipated and than usual and all this other kind of. And LaFleur said that Elton was ahead of schedule, so it's like which is good news. But as far as Bakhtiari, I mean they seemed kind of optimistic. They seemed like it sucks. And it's going to be way longer than we thought. He might not be ready till the end of the season. But we do think he's going to play again. And they all look forward to it. So, I guess...
Did you see the quote from Bakhtiari?
I did not see his quote directly. I didn't get a chance to watch this thing. What did he say?
Here's what he said. It's a nightmare. My nightmare that I have to live. And I don't know how many days it's been, but I'm just excited to wake up one day.
Oh my God. Which speaks to everything I just said, right?
I mean, this is now
the
the
mental
saga.
health and just the strain and the stress and everything that has been. A nightmare that he just wants to wake up
we're just a shade over 18 months. And we're, in a lot of essence, back at square one, it seems. So it's very disappointing and sad.
It's disheartening.
You know, I don't know if it's even so much on the level of I don't think we can win without this guy because clearly we won a lot of games.
Yeah.
And I think probably deep down the Packers have been maybe making some type of contingency plans for the fact that he might not come back and play anytime soon. But just for a guy who's the best tackler in football with a big career in front of him, who's young, to now be 19 months into this devastating injury is tough. Too bad.
Yeah. And I mean,
especially the way that he was injured too.
Yeah.
In a practice.
In a practice. I mean, I agree, man. It's devastating and it sucks. And I don't think this injury though spurred them to sort of take this sort of cautionary approach. I just think that's how they are, and Gutekunst talks about that, and that's truly his philosophy. And he's like, it's been ironclad, sort of baked into who he is and how he evaluates and how he operates. And they're always building for the future presently. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's like the best way I can explain it. So, and it served them very, very well. I think the offensive line is going to gel well, and I think they're going to do well. And it just sucks though, because you draft and you develop and you pay this guy and you see, what he's been able to do, and you start to just collect all of these super talented people, and it's like you want to see them all on the field at the same time. Because like you deserve that. Like, if you were good enough at your job to identify a guy and find him and pick him and then develop him, and then he turns into one of the best, if not the best in his position, it's like, damn, it's like you deserve to see that on the field.
Yeah.
Like look at the fruit of our labor. Look at all the hard fucking work, all the hours up late watching tape. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is that goes into building these teams, and then you get it together, and it's like having one or two guys missing at critical points in the time every year has just got to be so frustrating, because it's just like infinite what if, Now
help me understand how the PUP. Do you know how the PUP list is different than the IR list?
I think the injured reserved is you're allowed to stay on that for a much longer time. Or you know what? Maybe it's the other way around. Yeah, you know what? Now that I started saying it, I believe that it's the designation is dependent on maybe the severity, or for sure the length of time on the list. I believe is determined, but I'm not sure which one it is. Physically unable to perform. I think that sounds a little bit more permanent than injured reserve. I'm just kind of.
It said players on the PUP list are allowed to participate in meetings and use team facilities, but they can't practice.
Right.
PUP list is for players carrying football-related injuries entering training camp. I know that once the season starts, you can't put someone on PUP list like after the season starts, is what I read. So I think in a lot of these cases, what they said was they anticipated these players to be ready to go, but they wouldn't be able to put them on the PUP list once the season started, which is why they proactively did it now. But I think
so. You
I
can
would be
keep
surprised.
them on the PUP list after the season starts, but once you take them off, you can't put them back on.
Yeah,
they have.
That's what I understood it to be.
Well, that makes sense then.
Yep, but I don't know. I mean, to me, it's just. I don't know. I just don't see a scenario where they don't IR Bakhtiari at some point, in my mind.
I think the point is, like, if he just stays, if he's not
stays
ready,
on the PUP list,
keep him on the PUP list, and then until he's ready.
Okay.
And then you just take him off, and then he'll be ready to start. Hopefully, he'll just be ready to practice and start. And if he has a setback, then he'd have to go. I mean, and the injured reserve is for guys who can't practice and stuff, and guys who who are. Like have to recover. If it's just a setback, he might not have to go in the injury reserve. He just might just take some break from practice or something like that, or have some rest days or something. So it's just like I think that's probably how it gets designated. Some other comments, man, that Gutekunst mentioned. I mean, he talked about that. He said the Sammy Watkins thing was short term, and they expect him back in a few days or maybe a week. Same thing with the Watson injury, not long term. He had some kind of surgery. They thought he could maybe just play through it in the season, and just get it at the end of the season. But say, you know what, let's just go ahead and do it now. And I think that's the better thing to do. Just get out the way early.
For sure.
The defense.
You don't need a guy on his rookie year going out there with an injury. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense to me. He said, you know, it's the best defensive flexibility they've had in a while. And, you know, I agree, especially up in the front seven. Communication is key nowadays. And this was something that Rodgers was asked about. It just how sort of this dynamic between coaches and players and executives has changed over the years. And it's kind of gone from more of this authoritarian thing to more of like a collaborative thing. And, you know, it's made me kind of ask the question and think that, you know, like, where, like, I feel like I used to be firmly on this side of like where things are now when I was younger. But as I got older, I kind of see almost the necessity for the things that we don't like, for the uncomfortable things, for the things that sort of, you know, make us have to, you know, adapt or humble ourselves or whatever the case may be, for better or worse. I feel like it does add something to your experience. You know what I'm saying? And it is kind of it's a X factor. And, you know, I as much as I like I feel like, there's some good to it, but I had to ask myself, like, is there some drawbacks? Is there some cons to this? And Ben Roethlisberger had a quote earlier, I think in this week or maybe today, and he was talking about how things had changed in the locker room and how he felt like when he first started, it was more about the team, you know, and it was more about winning and all that kind of shit and the culture, and then it became more about me and my brand and all that kind of stuff, and that's a sentiment that really resonates with me. But, you know, then I hear Rodgers and Gutekunst talking about it, and it seems like even if they have a different experience, or maybe they just want to put out a different message, you know, I think sometimes being an executive and head coach is also about that. It's like you can't always say what you're thinking. Sometimes you have to say what you need to say because it's like,
for sure,
you know, it's like those speeches from war movies. If you say, look, man, we're gonna go up here and get shot the F up, like there's really no chance of us surviving, people be like, what the fuck? But if you say, we're gonna go kick their ass and we're gonna go win our freedom, it's like, you know, maybe you have a chance. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like some of that is what Gutekunst might be doing with the Bakhtiari situation. So I'm kind of taking it with a grain of salt, but I'm also like, maybe, you know, it is just going to take more time and we shouldn't worry too much about it. But the whole this culture thing, man, I want to let you jump in here, but I just want to kind of put my whole thoughts out there and then kind of let you jump in, because I think it really does ultimately come back to me to why, like, I'm trying to figure out why this team hasn't gotten over the hump. You know, like, I'm really trying to scour over it in my brain, every little thing. And it's like, Rodgers talked about Clemens and how Clemens has been back, and how Clemens, it used to be so hard to impress Clemens. And he just wanted his validation so much. And even after a great game, he'd come into the locker room or go in the film room on Monday or whenever it is, and Clemens would give him a negative grade. And I'm just like, and that is what formed Rodgers into the person he was under that regime that he didn't like so much, right? Under the way the things were a little stiff and a little old school. And, well, that's what produced the diamonds. That was the pressure that produced diamonds. And oftentimes I feel like with success and abundance and wealth, you get soft and you lose your edge. You know what I'm saying? You lose that thing that kind of made you who you was, because no one's pushing you no more. No one can say shit to you. No one can, you know, and it's just like, you know, is that I don't know, man. Is that what this team is missing, or does that sentiment resonate with you at all, or like, what are your kind of thoughts on that bunch of shit I just said?
I think what's interesting about what you just said is, I think what's interesting about Tom Clements is he was there, you know, to assert an authoritarian personality over Rodgers that I agree with you. if he was stepping into that job right now, not having the history with Aaron would be very, very tough to do, I think, just to gain Aaron's respect to the point where he respected you. Now, if you look back at the relationship between Holmgren and Favre, in a similar way, in Favre's early years, Mike Holmgren was not the buddy personality to Brett Favre. He was very tough on him. And I think that's in a way that I think Mike Sherman never had the respect of Brett Favre, and maybe even to an extent, even though it was only 1 year, Mike McCarthy wasn't coming in. I think he did a lot to rein in Brett Favre in that first year that he was here. But I think that there's something about those formative early years that a coach is going to be able to come in and assert the dominance in a way that, and what's interesting is, think of how hard LaFleur has had to work to gain that type of rapport with Rodgers, coming in at a time when he did, having to go through all the tiffs in the organization over that first couple of years to get to the point where they are now, having a great relationship. But it's interesting to see what the dynamic is going to be, how honest Tom Clements is going to be about his performances, how tough is he going to revert back to some of the same criticism and some of the things he said back in, Rodgers' earlier years when he was here. But I think that's kind of what's unique about the situation is he's afforded a lot more, and, in a way that Luke Getsy was never going to be able to, Nathaniel Hackett was never going to be able to challenge Rodgers, really.
Because, like you said,
I think they were about.
Like Rodgers he would always kind of see them more as like a eye to eye, like level, like
exactly,
and where he's going to always see Clemens as the Mr. Miyagi. Sort of
I think so.
The guy who taught him all these different things and everything, opened his mind. And so I think with those two guys, it was a partnership, and I think it, in terms of Clements, it's more a coach or mentor, student, coach, player in a way that, I know we talked about it when Clements was hired. I thought that was before Rodgers agreed to come back. To me, that was like the obvious, signal that he was coming back. It was when Clements was hired. But I think that was a really great move, and one that, was embraced by LaFleur, to bring in a guy that was there under the previous head coaching regime. And he was like, he sees the value in that move. So I think it is interesting. Wants to be able to, like you say, he wants to be able to have a little more, he needs someone to, be able to stoke Rodgers, I think the Jordan Love thing stoked his competitiveness like it had not been stoked in a long time. And that's why we got this back-to-back MVP, Aaron Rodgers. But there's still one more component, which is the critique. Jordan Love stoked his competitiveness, but we need someone who can critique him. And I don't think LaFleur has that ability, like you said. I mean, it's even the way they came in, right? Like it was from the beginning. It was like LaFleur, Rodgers, LaFleur. You guys got to play nice together, okay? You know what I'm saying?
Yep, sure.
And where Clemens is like, let me tell you what, kiddo, this is how we're going to do it.
It'll be very interesting to see how Clements and LaFleur coexist with one another during this year, and what type of style of offense do we see, and what type of quarterback. I would love to get back to the days of the quick 2-3 step drop, slant, quick plays, get the ball in hands. And I think there's a lot you could do, but, these long developing, drawn out plays, these have been kind of the painful things to watch over the years, where there's just not seemingly any continuity or rhythm to the offense. It seems disjointed, and in some ways it feels that way under LaFleur, kind of like it did under McCarthy. So it's tough to tell what's going on to cause this, but if you look back at early film of Rodgers in his first few years, there was a clearly different style of play than there is now. Where I think it was he was in the offense.
Yeah.
Whereas the last few years, I would say it's been more about him having to be the entire offense himself versus operating within the offense at a very high level. And it'd be nice to, hopefully they can get back to doing some of the things that they've done early in his career versus, and it's tough to say because he's had 2 back-to-back MVPs for sure. But in general, I think the rhythmic flow of the offense in those early years of Rodgers was very apparent. If you look at some of the highlights from those first few years.
I think what you said is true because, he was the guy who got embarrassed on national television. That's who he was. He was the guy who was supposed to go number 1 overall, got passed up by his hometown team for Alex freaking Smith, slid to team after team after team to a team who had a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he was embarrassed. I'm sure he'll probably tell you that that's the most embarrassing day of his life. It put a fucking fire in his ass, and then he had to sit for 3 more years. But he was killing it. He was determined to show who he could be on the practice squad and all that kind of stuff like that. And it's interesting to kind of be here now with Rodgers, and like you said, you go back and you see coming in how there was all this pressure to fill the shoes, and like you said, he was more so a part of the offense. Because we already had this thing where Brett Favre was the whole offense, and he became like, we're gonna run an offense here, West Coast, run the ball, quick passing game, and because he's accurate and he has a strong arm and he has good touch, that really suits him really well.
Yep.
And then they threw in the wrinkles of the play action, and it was just a perfect harmony. And I think really kind of what happened is, honestly, I just really think that everything got to his head. I really think everything got to his head. Like, if you want to be one of these other teams, okay, teams that's not going to make the playoffs, teams that's getting a new coach every other year, but this is fucking Green Bay, man. And here, it needs to be more serious. You can play and joke around after you fucking accomplish the goal, which is the Super Bowl. You could come to the fucking Super Bowl parade dressed as Connor. Why can't that be the fucking tradition? Going to the Super Bowl parade dressed as the guy that I admire. The priority, and even when they asked him in his interview, what are your goals what are your priorities? What did he say? What is your motivation for this season? And they say, is it the Super Bowl? Is it this? And Rodgers looked and he says, love, maybe. I'm like, what the fuck kind of answer is that? Love? Love of the game, love of the guys, man. Oh, and then he goes, after like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, oh, of course, we want to win a Lombardi. Man, that's bullshit, bro. That is utter bullshit. And this is the fucking
Listen, I understand why you're upset. I appreciate your opinion.
My goodness.
I don't feel quite as strongly as you do, but I can understand why you feel that way.
No, man.
That's all I'll say.
The priorities are just so wrong.
I know.
The priorities are so wrong.
I know you feel that way.
Just
like I said,
being just okay with, I don't know. Anyways,
I think there's more people that feel that way than what you think.
No, I don't. I really honestly don't. I'm telling you, all over Twitter, Instagram, no matter where I go, Facebook, it is overwhelming majority people telling me to shut the fuck up. You're not a fan. Turn in your card. This dude's a Bears fan. It's just like this dude's an idiot. This dude doesn't know shit. He doesn't watch any games.
See, and that's
constantly
me.
People just telling me that, and that's why I appreciate you. I'm even surprised that you are even still doing this show, honestly.
Here's the thing. I don't like all the name calling. I don't like the fighting. I don't like the negative engagement on social media. I think it's a lose-lose. We've talked about it before. I think if you put something out there and somebody comes back with a comment like that, I think that's wrong too. I think for everybody out there, there's more valuable uses of time than to have a negative debate with a fellow Packers fan on social media. I mean, really. That's just, there's no room for that. There's just no point in it. Of all the things that we could be doing collectively as a group of Packers fans to tear each other apart just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's why, I don't. Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna give my opinions, express myself kind of person. Now, I am trying to, and because I think it could have a lot to do with just my upbringing and other certain things. But it's like, I feel like when somebody, it really feels like a personal attack when somebody tells me that I can't express my opinion, how I feel, or that how I feel.
No,
it's like, and I feel like that's really, it's like, I just say I don't really like this. He comes out dressed like this. Oh my God, it's amazing, it's so cool. You can all talk about how cool it is. Why can't some person just say I don't like it? I don't like this.
I think
why.
Yeah. I think the problem is if you were to say that in a tailgate with a bunch of Packer fans around, I think somebody could say, "Oh no, you laugh, you chuckle. It's a couple quick exchanges, but." It never really escalates to the level of personal attacks that for some reason does when you're doing it on social media. Not you, but anybody.
Because people
it's just
feel
like
less repercussions because it's just
there's less repercussions. There's the anonymity behind the whole thing, which is just the personal attacks, and it's just like it's a toxic environment to try to disagree with someone in any way. In the way that people just treat each other so poorly compared to how they would act in any type of normal setting is crazy. And that's the issue. It's just like, it's like if I was at a game and I saw like a group of Vikings fans and I just walked into their tailgate and screamed that they sucked right in their face. I would never do that.
Yeah.
But that's essentially what people do every single day on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Is they just look for people that they don't agree with and just look for ways to just bring them down. And it's too bad. It really is. Because frankly, for the most part, if you saw those people at a game, you could probably have a civilized conversation.
Yes.
With honestly, most of those people.
There's a lot of people.
You know what I mean?
There's a few people that I've met in person at these games. Like when I go around, when I did the Ravens game, I went down there, I met some people, and it was a great interaction. But it's like, as soon as everybody hears how I talk about Aaron Rodgers, man, it just changes everything. And it's like I can't. It's like I'm either gonna just be myself, and that's why, man, I was cool. Yesterday I went on Acme Packers podcast. That was a cool experience, and that's what the damn, I'm blanking on my man's name right now. But that's what he said. He said, "Look, man, you're pretty authentic, man. I don't think there's another fan out there, and I think that everybody, just should be. There's a value to every fan and every, opinion and all that kind of stuff." And I never heard of
Acme Packers.
Acme Packers, man. Look him up on Instagram. Yeah, man. He's
Acme Army.
Oh, Acme Army. I'm sorry, Acme Army. Acme Army. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I follow this guy.
Yeah, I think he has a bigger following on Twitter though. I think he's just kind of new to Instagram because I remember me and him first met on Twitter before I got banned or permanently suspended or whatever it is.
Okay.
Definitely. But I just appreciate, and even when I went on Matt Ramage, like he was like, "Look, man, I appreciate you too," and that's all I ask. I just ask that people just don't treat me like I'm some sort of like mentally like come on, man. It's like I speak intelligently, If you look at my page, I mean, obviously I'm a huge fan, so I mean that stuff doesn't really bother me. But it's like, what bothers me is not the person saying it, but it's like the fact that they think that they have the right to say that. That's what kind of bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not when I actually feel like, oh, I am a bad fan or I'm not a real fan. It's just like the fact that you in your brain can just judge someone else, or just because you don't like one thing someone says, you're gonna come out with all this like animosity and like authority, like you are a bad fan. It's like, what the fuck? Like, who are you? I think you're a bad fan. I think all the people who just blindly shove their nose up Aaron's ass and just kiss it in the entirety of it, I think they're bad fans, because it's fans like them who can't have anything. It's like, you got it. Like, at least you can be critical. And if I make a point, you go, I can't disagree with that. Now, like, you'll say, I'm not going to go all the way to your extreme, but to me, it's a big difference from being able to, like, look, I still think the dude can yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I mean, he didn't show up here. And, there's some things that I can notice about his game. To some people, like, literally, I was talking to this one girl and she was like, I was like, he didn't play. He played like crap against San Francisco last year. And she was like, what? How are you going to blame him for? I was like, what? She blamed Devontae. She blamed Devontae Adams more than Rodgers. This is the kind of shit I'm talking about. I was like, that. Come on, man. That's not a smart fan team. I'm not saying like, I don't want to say like not a smart, but it's like, I think being like an actual like good fan really means you can be critical. It's like being a good parent. Like, you can't just praise your kid all the time. Your kid does something dumb, they steal the car and crash it. You're not gonna be like, oh my gosh, you really snuck out the house. Really, I mean, you're not gonna find something to praise them for. You're gonna be like, what the fuck are you thinking? You could have killed yourself. You could have killed someone else. Like, you have to, in order to be a good anything, you have to be willing to be critical sometimes.
I hear you.
Do you agree or disagree? We just look
I
at
agree
everywhere in life. Is there one thing that you can be good at without ever being critical?
No. And I understand your perspective on things. I understand why you feel that way. I could easily see the progression to get to that point, for sure. I don't agree with it all, but that's the thing, is I'm not gonna trash you on social media because I don't agree with what you said.
Well, that's why.
Or, say this guy is insane, or whatever, or jump in. It's just that's not, I told you, I'm not here for the trenches.
You're not here for the smoke, man. You don't want the smoke. Tom is smoke free. He might be smoking beer out this motherfucker.
Smoke out my house. Yeah. Keep that shit outside.
Tom, aka Smokey the Bear.
When I see that shit, I go in the house, I close the blinds, I lock the doors, I close the garage door, I turn off the lights. That's it.
Well, I'm glad I got to get that off my chest. Yet again, I'm sure I have to get it off my chest many more times. But the rest of the press conference stuff, I mean, like you said, it was kind of basic. But I mean, Rodgers did mention the Hall of Famer thing that Devontae Adams had.
That was awesome.
Yeah, he mentioned that. I
loved it.
We were both skeptical about Lazard, but I heard Lazard had a really great catch today. And Rodgers seems to be sort of, it almost seems like Rodgers is saying like Lazard is the new number one. Like in his mind, he's seen enough and he knows enough about him. And he's, of all the guys, he's the one he trusts the most. I mean, except for Cobby, of course, but of the young guys.
Did you like that comment by Rodgers?
What comment?
Because I thought the basically trolling Devontae Adams a little bit on that Hall of Fame comment.
Man, it reminded me of that conversation we had when you was like, when they link up, do you think he mentioned it or something? And and yeah, I did. And it's like, it's like you don't know with Aaron. Like, I don't know if he was just like, trying to like throw a jab back at him, like kind of clowning him a little bit. And when Adams hears it, he's gonna be like, hit him with the LOL emojis or something. Or Adam's gonna be like, hey, what was up with that? Like, I was clearly taken out of, what I'm saying? Like, when it happened to Adams, it was in the moment. You had an opportunity to hear it, think about it, prepare and you knew you were gonna probably get answered about it. Or they actually didn't even ask him about it. He just sort of threw it out there when asked about Lazard. So it was like, it's hard to say with Rodgers if it was just a joke or if it was some actual real kind of like passive aggressive bullshit. And in the spirit of optimism and, really trying to reflect on myself, I was like, maybe it's just a little jab. Maybe it's just a little, friend busting balls and stuff. But what did you think? But I also feel like all good jokes contain a bit of truth. I feel like every good, ball bust or something, contains a bit of, like there's something there that really kind of got up under you a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he doesn't make the comment if he doesn't think it was a little outrageous to begin with, for sure.
Something.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. But I don't know. I think it's funny. I think it was funny that Devontae doubled down on that comment. I thought
love
to
it,
be.
man.
I don't know.
I love
man.
it. You know what?
And this is where you and I disappear. Do you really think Derek Carr is a Hall of Fame quarterback?
But that's not what he said. He said.
Yeah, he did.
But that's what he said. But I'll take him at his word. Whether he wants to clean it up, whether you want to just say, okay, he's cleaning it up or not. He said, look, I think I have this expression. I said that is like sometimes words get in the way, which is like basically you don't always say exactly what you want to express. And I think that's what he really meant was like, even if Derek Carr was a Hall of Famer, there would still be some time, a little bit of time for us to kind of get a little connection. Now, do I truly believe that Davante Adams wholeheartedly in his heart is like Derek Carr can do I can be just as successful with Derek Carr, and Derek Carr can, maybe he doesn't have everything that Rodgers has. Can he make spectacular plays? I would say at this point in his career, Derek Carr is more mobile than Aaron Rodgers, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he doesn't have some of that rare arm talent where Rodgers can throw those balls where he's like being dragged down on his jersey and all this crazy shit. Okay, but the level of that to where Carr has, I don't think is as vast as people think. Yeah, it's a different gear. I'll say that. I'll say it's definitely a different gear, but it's still okay. You know what? Like in the grand scheme of things, it's like you know 200 to 150. Yeah, 200 is fast as shit, but it's like so is 150. If you're if you're going 150 in a car, like it's still fast as shit, man. You know what I mean? So it's like it's like yeah, and I feel like that's what that's his whole sentiment. Don't sit here and think that I'm about to drop off because I'm who I am, first of all. And second of all, I'm trying to tell y'all, I know Derek Carr better than anybody. Yeah. This motherfucker can ball. Me and him can ball. Okay? I don't know about him and everybody else, but I know me and him can ball. So just watch out. Don't be surprised if Derek Carr put up 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns this year, and is considered for All-Pro.
All right, we'll see.
And then if he do that, if I'm here for 5 years and we can replicate that for the next 5 years, let's say we do win a championship, Derek Carr's going to be a Hall of Famer. So it's not really that crazy to think. Just like Matthew Stafford is going to be a Hall of Famer now. So it's like, and I still stand by my position. If Rodgers cannot win another one, or if Matthew Stafford wins one more, then he will surpass Aaron Rodgers. He will surpass him because he's going to have the numbers, and he'll have the numbers. He's already Matthew Stafford is already on ahead of every single quarterback that ever came before him to 30,000 and 40,000 and 50,000 yards.
Certainly would have been interesting to see what would have happened to Matt Stafford had he not spent so much time in Detroit to start his career, wouldn't it?
I would say that if he never left, but now that he's left and immediately wins the Super Bowl, no, it says everything that I thought it said. That was the statement. Now he gets to see if he does it again. There is no one what if. This dude's a winner. This dude's a baller. This dude's a Hall of Famer. He's got all the talent, arm strength, side angle. He's been doing that side angle shit maybe longer than anybody that I remember seeing.
Yeah.
I always remember seeing him doing that, even when he was a rookie. I was like, why the fuck is he?
For sure.
And sometimes it seemed like he was doing it when he could have just threw it regularly. I was like, just throw it regular. He just wants to throw it, throw off that arm talent. So it's not that crazy, especially in today's day and age where anybody can just put up crazy numbers because they're just passing all over the place. It's going to be a lot of guys making it to the Hall of Fame that don't deserve it, probably, with no hardware and all this shit, like a Phillip Rivers. Never have Phillip Rivers in my Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people that will put him in there.
Yeah, he'll make it for sure too.
Sad. That's sad. Honestly, to me, that is honestly sad that Phillip Rivers is going to just be a first ballot or even second ballot Hall of Famer. It really is sad. I feel like if you go, you're gonna look at the Hall of Fame and you're gonna see this stark shift of like all these Hall of Famers that won Super Bowls, and then all these Hall of Famers who ain't win shit.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're like, this is where it got diluted.
You're right.
It's diluted as hell. All those other guys, all those old guys. I mean, there's a couple Dan Fouts and shit, but it's like for the most part, them old guys was winning rings, championships, whatever before they even had the Super Bowl. They was winning championships or whatever.
Yep.
Did you have a toxic take? Did you want to specifically give?
No toxic take.
No, Tay, you just wanted me to you doing that.
I just wanted you to.
You're such a thoughtful person, Tom. You're so thoughtful.
I just wanted you to be able to express yourself in a safe setting. In a safe zone.
In a safe space. My space, the space that I created for myself, should be a place where I can express my own takes. Literally, honestly, this is exactly why I started this. So I can just express myself. So that's what.
Anybody in the chat tonight? Anybody in the chat
tonight, man? It was a chatless night. It's a chatless night.
No Rick. No Rick. What's his name?
No Kylie. No what's some other Rick LM? Who's the other man? No Trailer Court 69. Even though he
Trailer Court.
He hit me up on Facebook message. Just been busy, man. I mean, a lot of guys. It's like I think this is their off season. Like a lot of guys that definitely
for sure
more
season guys.
In season is definitely more popping. They stop by for the games. We hang out all day, so
that makes sense.
And I usually do more live streams during the season because there's always something to talk about. Like this, I'm kind of like, I mean, not like scared, but it is also like, it's hard. Without having just like all the time in the world to do research and all that shit is like, I just want to be able to make sure we can talk about enough shit like each and every week. So once a week is good enough. Out this season. We gotta hit this poll up, man. We gotta hit this poll up.
Oh,
okay.
That's a good one.
It was a pretty good one, man. Who had the better pick six? Al Harris wild card game 2004 versus Seattle. We want the ball. We're going to score. Hasselbach gets picked off for the win. Walk off win. Pick six.
Yeah, big time.
2011, but 2010 season. Divisional round right before the half. Not Matthew Stafford, but
Matty Ice.
Matthew Ice.
Matthew Ice.
That'd be crazy if his last name was actually Ice, but Matthew, what's his name? Matthew Ryan, aka Natty Ice. He picked him off for a pick six right before the half. Kind of put that game well out of reach. And then, of course, Mr. Nick Collins made his career rest in peace because, God, it was really taken from us too soon. But gladly he's still with us. He is still amongst the living. But his career was, gosh, man. Anyways, Nick Collins, Super Bowl 45, correct? Super Bowl 45, Steelers.
Yep.
And I'm not surprised that Nick Collins took this thing home because it's a Super Bowl win, and that always ups the stakes, ups the ante, ups the memory value, all that kind of stuff for people.
Oh, for sure.
So
now, what was the? Just take the game out of it for a minute. I don't know if we talked about this last week, but in your mind, what was actually the best play of the three? If you just take it for maybe the jump on the ball. Yep.
I mean, the Tremont and Al Harris one are almost identical. Like it's like
for sure.
Kind of play a little out route. They jump it, and they kind of. But I'll say Al Harris because to me, still the thing, and Nick Collins, I'm trying to remember. I feel like that was kind of like Brent had pressure or something, and he kind of just like threw it, and Nick was just in a great spot, right?
I think the ball was deflected.
Or something. Like, it wasn't like Nick jumped in front of anybody. He just was in his zone or where he was supposed to be, to his credit.
But he did have to make a hell of a run.
Oh, the run was incredible. That's why his, I think, deserves some recognition, is because it was in the Super Bowl. A, it was the first score of the game. B, and the run was pretty nice. He had to do some jukes, and then at the end he kind of almost got tackled. So, but if you just talk about pure play, I still think the Al Harris one wins out for me, because, like I said, even I knew where Matt Ryan was going with that football.
Yep.
If I could sit at home and say, like, they got whatever it was, they had no timeouts. I believe it was like under 10 seconds, right? And it was like you're just trying to get as close as you can, as fast as you can. Obviously, that's an out route.
Yep.
So it's like a veteran ball hawk playmaker like Tramon, and he wasn't as veteran as he is now, but he was still maybe like 3-4 years into his career or something like that.
Yep. Somewhere around there.
So it's like, I knew. He knew exactly what time it was. As they say, he understood the assignment. He jumped the hell out of that route exactly like I thought he should have. So, but the Harris thing, it was overtime. It was the first drive. They could have made any kind of play. They could have with a run, play action. So, he saw something. He knew he identified something. And like I said, the fact that it ended the game. The other two plays, there was still ball game left. But he ended the game after the declaration of we want the ball, we're going to score. It was just like Al Harris, and it was so unexpected. The other two, it was kind of expected, or you can kind of see, all right, the tip pass, okay. We had got a lot of turnovers all that year, and we've been a turnover hungry team all year. But the Al Harris one to me was just like, it was just so special, just the circumstances, the walk-off factor. And it just was so unexpected, man. And those dreads just flapping in the wind.
I know.
And him,
that was fun. Good poll, though. Good poll.
It was a good poll, man. So Al Harris 29%, Tramon Williams 20%, and Nick Collins 51%. 15 votes, 10 votes, and 26 votes. So I had a pretty good turnout on the votes, man. Not nearly as many views, 161 views. Like, how hard is it to just click one, people? But yeah, okay. Al Harris was kind of way in front of Tramon at first. Tramon kind of made a little comeback, but Nick was just too good for everybody. What about you? I mean, do you have a favorite, or did you think one was just purely the better play?
I think if I was gonna say my favorite, it probably is a Tramon. I think I said this before, but
you did say Tramon. But do you think that's also the best play?
No, I don't think it's the best play, but I think it was the best in that moment. I think for them to go to Atlanta against a 6 versus a 1 seed,
they got crushed early in the year. I mean, don't forget, Atlanta whooped their ass early in the year in Atlanta.
Just to go into that game and make that play before half, it was kind of like the feeling like, okay, like this team could actually win the Super Bowl. I think that was the feeling that Packers fans were looking for to legitimize the run that they were on. And I think that was a whole moment.
Kind of a game. Yeah. I mean, play.
Yep. That was a whole moment right there. That they just ran away with it. So I think that was the most meaningful one. Like in the big scheme of me remembering like that season particularly and the playoffs. I remember how exciting that was. I mean, that was just an unbelievable play at that moment that really like was no turning back at that point.
The only thing that kind of, I guess, dampers it a little bit for me, and I already said how I feel like it was a predictable, or like it's like I feel like he definitely should have made the play, like
Yep.
But like I don't want to say dampers it, but like that, I guess that's maybe I guess for me that took out a little bit of the degree of difficulty or whatever. But the other part is like I feel what you're saying about like it was a moment for the defense, but like the way Rodgers was playing, honestly, I feel like there was no way they were gonna lose that game anyways. Honestly, I just
For
feel
sure.
like I mean, he was like spinning out of stuff like 6 cents. I mean, I was like, there's
Yeah.
But the way Rodgers was playing, I didn't feel like they were going to lose regardless. So I guess that was kind of another part to me. I feel like they didn't really need. I mean, I didn't want it to be like a 49-48 shootout. But it's like if it came to it, I just feel like there was no way Rodgers was going to lose that game because he was just on fire.
He was on fire for sure.
Zone. That was a zone. I don't think I've ever seen him. I honestly think that's probably his greatest performance of his career. I don't think
it's up there. Has to be.
I don't think he's never topped it in an equally moment. You know what I'm saying? He's never played that well in a game of that magnitude. That number one seed on the road, so it was just like, whew, that one I haven't watched that one in a while. I might have to go back and, you know what, I probably can't anymore. I think the NFL, well, I could probably find it on YouTube, but I wanted to
yeah, you can get on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, but
you can get on YouTube.
But, I might have to go back and watch that one, man.
That was a fun one.
That was a chef's kiss of a performance, and the fact that I know it ends in the Super Bowl. It is not like,
oh yeah,
and then like the next game they just get slaughtered.
I know.
It was like you can fully appreciate the moment that it was because it ends in ultimate glory.
I have a tradition of replaying a historic game before the Packers games.
Like every week or just
so every week at the Green Bay house that we have a tailgate. Mm. So usually if it's like let's just say a noon game, I'll turn this shit on at because it's usually the replay is an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Right.
I'll turn it on at 5 hours before the game outside. Or, if it's I'll put it on at least to the point where I don't watch it 3 hours up to game time, but, we'll replay, for instance, when Washington was in town last year, we replayed, I think it was the NFC wildcard Packer game. So what was that, 2015 maybe? Yeah. I forgot what year it was.
At that game.
Yeah. So we did that one. So we'll find whatever team they're playing. We'll find a historic matchup.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up. I like that.
Which is cool.
No, I like that.
Either from, try and find something from the Favre era or early Rodgers, which is kind of cool. But it's fun. You forget about a lot of players and, you kind of just it's very nostalgic, even listening to the broadcast and the styles and the trends and the graphics on the broadcast.
Yeah, the graphics and
everything is crazy.
Man, when I look back at the mid 90s, even early 2000s, I was like, that shit sucked. The graphics are so crude, man. It's in the everything is but at the time it was great. At the time it was amazing. But now it's the way we have. I mean, the stuff that they put together with these 3D things and when they do the stats and the montage, it's man, it is incredible.
Now I got to think for the home opener, there's got to be a good. I mean, there's so many, but Packers Bears. My favorite one. That's going to be a tough one to come up with.
I think there was a good one. There was a good one that year when they had Julius Peppers. We won 55-10 or some shit, didn't we?
At home, where maybe the 2010 NFC Championship game, for that matter.
That was that day, and that was almost that to me. That was what I was talking about, hitting the waves, right? Hitting the highs and the lows, being on that kind of thing, because that was the game, right? That was right after the Atlanta game. We were all feeling ourselves, and Rodgers was looking like no one could touch him, and then bam, Chicago almost took him out of there, man. As Skip Bayless would say, with Caleb Haney at quarterback, man, they almost got him up out of there, man. That would have been crazy, man. That would have been crazy. I mean, that was definitely one of Rodgers' worst performances. But I wasn't surprised because it was a division game. Bears had an awesome defense. And Urlacher, I think if you ask Aaron Rodgers, outside of maybe Charles Woodson, but he didn't really play against Charles Woodson. It's I probably would think Urlacher is probably the defender he really respects, probably one of the most.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so. What do you think of Mike Holmgren, Hall of Fame finalist?
I saw that. Good for him.
And Sterling Sharp, for that matter.
Sterling Sharp?
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was already not eligible. I thought his shit was up.
No, they just announced it today.
What?
Yeah, he's in there. Right. 12 former players, includes Ken Anderson and 5-time Pro Bowler Sterling Sharp.
Yeah, maybe this is the year. I mean, maybe this will be his year.
Sterling Sharp is interesting because obviously there's a lot of people that, I think the one knock would have to be the body of work was much shorter than most guys. But on the other hand,
but there's also
he accomplished more. Yeah, he accomplished more in that the time that he played than a lot of guys did in a lot longer period. Yeah. But I think both those guys very deserving, and Mike Holmgren especially. I mean, that guy, transformed 2 franchises, went to 3 Super Bowl appearances, won 1, probably could have won 3. I just think for everything he did for the Packers, for Brett Favre, that whole, time that he was in Green Bay and then going to Seattle and taking that team to a Super Bowl. You kind of forget about that Mike Holmgren.
Goddamn right you forget about it, because I totally forgot about it.
I think about that. With the backup quarterback.
Right? Who was the quarterback?
No, Hasselbach. Matt Hasselbach. He almost won a Super Bowl with Brett Favre's backup. That would be like Mike McCarthy going to Dallas with Matt Flynn and winning a Super Bowl. Or even going to a Super Bowl.
They're the freaking quarterback whisperers, man. They know what the fuck they're doing in Green Bay. They got some kind of formula, some kind of magic formula from ancient times that allows them to pick these quarterbacks. And you're right, though, man. I forgot about that. Mike Hasselbach, yeah, that was right. That was the other thing that made that game kind of big, too, was it? Because Holmgren was on the other side, right?
He was in that, in the Al Harris game. And if I'm not mistaken, also in the 2007 NFC Divisional Round game in the snow, in which we beat the Seahawks in that game that we blew them out at Lambeau Field, which is pretty wild.
Wow, yeah, man, I don't recall that one.
I mean, it was crazy to think, he was the coach for 9 years in Seattle, which is crazy. 99 to 2008. And, the saddest thing about that was, he really never should have left Green Bay. He left because he wanted that general manager job. Seattle was willing to make him the GM and head coach. Packers didn't want to do that. And then 2 years later, they give it to Mike Sherman, essentially the same position. And, we had the Mike Sherman years of Brett Favre, which
that was honestly
was just a throwaway.
My gosh, man. That was our little desert. The Sherman was kind of a little bit of a desert, man. He was fucking up left and right with the like when Sherman was the GM. Who was it?
Yeah, they would have overlapped I think 2 years or 3, because Rodgers was drafted in 2005. Ted Thompson was already the GM, and I think McCarthy wasn't hired for another year or 2. So there's probably a year or 2 overlap that they stripped him of that title.
I think it was the next year. It was McCarthy wasn't here for his rookie season. Or maybe it was 2 years. And then his 3rd year, McCarthy comes in. He sees what Rodgers has to offer. 4th year, they decide to move on.
But, back to Mike Holmgren, he took over a team that was basically hovering right around 500 for a long time. 3rd, 4th in division. And, in basically 4 quick years, has them in the playoffs, and then 3 years later in the Super Bowl, 2005. And then a couple playoff losses. But 5 times, 2 wild card round losses, a lost Super Bowl, 2 divisional rounds. It just shows how tough it is in the NFL to win a Super Bowl, really.
I wonder, though. I really wonder how tough it is. I mean, I know it's tough, but...
I mean, it's just crazy. And then, Seattle then comes in. Pete Carroll, a couple years later. Good stretch. I mean, Seattle's actually had more success than I would have thought. When you really look at those 2 eras back to back, the Holmgren era from 1999 to basically 2008, and then Pete Carroll coming in 2010, 2 years later. And, the stretch that he's had of 12 years of essentially mostly winning playoff seasons with two Super Bowl appearances.
Super Bowl victories. One play away.
And the knock is like, oh, well, these are shit fans that never came out, prior to them winning. But it's like they've been winning for like 23 years. So I don't know. It's not like this is a recent thing. People forget.
And shit, they had some pretty good.
And don't get me wrong. I don't like Pete Carroll. I don't like Russell Wilson. I don't like their whole act with the.
What's wrong with Pete Carroll though?
Fucking scumbag.
He's a
major scumbag. Scumbag.
Why is he scumbag?
That's my toxic take.
What
Pete Carroll's a scumbag.
I didn't even get one out of you. I gotta just bring up college coaches. That's
That's the problem. He slithers out of USC, leaves it in shambles, runs out of a burning house, and then flees to the NFL.
Did he set the house on fire though?
Yeah, he did, for sure.
Run out of a burning house if you didn't set it on fire.
No,
he did. You're supposed to run out that motherfucker. That's my point.
He pushed the women and children aside, and he just ran for the door.
He pushed them out the way so he could go get help faster.
But back to my point,
The point is, they're more successful.
Yeah, they've been winning for like 23 years. Pretty good.
I'll tell you what. Somebody called me an idiot because I said I felt like Jimmy Garoppolo was if you consider the totality of the free agency quarterback market, and with the caveat that Deshaun Watson was facing like 50-something counts of sexual assault, it's like I think Jimmy Garoppolo was the best option on the free agency market. He's a proven winner.
It's tough to say what it's going to take. It's tough to say what it's going to take for that guy to get over the hump. But as wild as it is, and he has once.
What do you mean over the hump?
In the NFC Championship game last year, it just didn't feel like he was going to be able to take that team down the field to score a touchdown.
Well, he had a freaking broken thumb.
I know.
Did you forget he had a broken thumb on his throwing hand and a fucked up shoulder on the other one?
I like him. Don't get me wrong.
That's what makes the fact that they were able to go in there and beat the Packers so goddamn embarrassing. This dude literally had a broken thumb on his throwing hand.
I love everything Jimmy G's about. The way he flirts with Aaron Andrews on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
I love the way
he's banging porn stars.
He's banging porn stars. I know he's banging porn stars, but that's him. Yeah. I just like the way I like the fact he's a winner. I like the fact that he's always been surrounded by controversy, and he's always just handled himself like he knows who he is. He's like, yeah, you want it.
He was like born out of the Tom Brady excellence. It was just crazy to think he was there that long, and I think he won like 2 Super Bowls as a backup, right? Yeah. 2 or 3?
Yeah, 2. I think 2.
Crazy.
But I mean, he's a winner. I mean, he's limited. Yeah, he's limited. And I know Shanahan, they were in a position to draft this, very unlimited kind of a player in Trey Lance, and it's like, it's kind of hard to pass up on that. That's the same thing that happened with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. I get that, and I don't blame them for moving on because Jimmy G was never his guy to begin with. He was a guy he inherited in a trade or whatever the case may be. So it's like, I get that. But if you're just talking about Baker Mayfield, Carson Wentz, I mean, of course, like I said, Deshaun Watson, but like I said, just the fact that you don't really know when he's going to be available because of the legal stuff. Now, of course, if he didn't have any legal issues, then yeah, he's the clear-cut number one. But I'm just saying, as a guy can come in, he had the surgery, he'll be fine. I mean, he passed his physical. You know what you're getting with Jimmy G, man. I feel like he goes to a team that isn't going to ask him to do too much, run the ball, play good defense. That's what he wants. And I think, and that's the thing about him. It's like he knows his own limitations, and in those limitations, he finds a way to like in the knowing of his limitations, he really maximizes everything he can do.
Who would you rather have at quarterback, Justin Fields or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Right now, Jimmy Garoppolo. If Justin Fields can develop, for sure, Justin Fields long term. I really think Justin Fields, I liked him a lot at Ohio State.
I think Matty Ice would have been a better option in Indy or Jimmy Garoppolo would have been a better option than Matty Ice.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, Matt Ryan was under contract. He got traded. Like, he wasn't a free agent though, right? He got traded. Right?
He got traded with that wild contract that they obviously probably restructured. But
yeah. So
Matt Ryan's a 37. You know, that's the funny thing is, like, he's a 37-year-old guy who has not really shown anything great in the last few years. And the Colts, you could argue, are one of the up-and-coming, team with the most upside in terms of weapons. They got unbelievable running back, defense. You hit your wagon to Matt Ryan as opposed to, like, Jimmy G, who's 7 years younger, who's more recently been to an NFC Championship game, more recently been to a Super Bowl, I believe. It's just a surprising situation that is hard to really explain when you really think about it. Like,
I feel like that Jimmy G is basically he literally was the quarterback for the NFC version of your team. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Colts are the NFC version of the Niners. They run the shit out the ball.
You're right.
They play great.
You're 100% right about that.
So it's like you're literally just and you saw what he was able to do with them when he was healthy. And you could argue that you've got a better offensive line than they have, better running game with JT, and the defense. I mean, the Colts for the last 2 years, I think, were like one of the only few teams. Like, I know 2 years ago when they went into the playoffs with Phillip Rivers, they were the only team in the playoffs in the NFL that was top 10 in both offense and defense.
I think the Colts have made another unbelievable mistake. Going from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz to now 37-year-old Matt Ryan is a horrible decision.
They seem to have a thing for washed up kind of injury riddled quarterbacks, but the Phillip Rivers one, to me that was dumb. Wentz, same thing. I mean, he wouldn't have been like. I feel like
I kind of get it though. Yeah, I kind of understand the Wentz situation.
He wasn't terrible last year. He was terrible in the very last game of the season when they could have went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, he was terrible in that game. But if you just like the rest of the season, I think he was like 27-5 or something like that, 25-6 or something like that. Like, I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, so, and especially when you run the ball so much with Jonathan Taylor. But yeah, I don't think I would have. I'm not nearly as high. But the point was, though, his old coach, right, Peterson, was there, so it was supposed to be a match made in heaven and yada yada yada. But I'll say this: I think of those three guys, I would definitely take Matt Ryan over Carson Wentz and
I agree.
Phillip Rivers. I think Matt Ryan. I've never been a really big Matt Ryan guy, but I will say this: I think he'll be a good fit for that team. I think, like, he's a veteran. He's been an MVP. He's been kind of high before, and he's been low. And I think this might be the right time in his career to where he's like, look, I just want to win. What do we got to do?
Yep.
I can hand it off. I still got enough in the tank that I could, like, throw it deep if we want to throw it deep. Whatever we want to do, I can do it. And I'm not trying. I'm just trying to get in where I fit in. Yes, it's JT. It's not my team. This is Jonathan Taylor's team. It's Darius Leonard's team. I'm just a journey. I'm just a dude trying to just get some hardware. So, but I still think Jimmy Garoppolo would have been the guy that I would have been targeting. If I was the Colts, if I was Seattle, if I was the Browns, if I was Washington, all those teams.
As a closing topic, I think we got a few more alternate helmets this week.
We did, man.
That dropped.
I think we did as well. We saw the Chicago Bears helmet, and look, the Bears do.
You
suck.
and I talked about that a little
Bears
bit,
still
right?
Suck, but those helmets are pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie.
It's pretty sick with the orange jersey.
No,
I'm not gonna lie.
It's sick.
My favorite Bears look, though, I think their throwbacks are pretty solid. The blue.
Yeah, with the blue and the stripes, they're kind of like.
Or even though it's the whites, I think, with the stripes on the sleeve or whatever it is.
Okay.
Those are pretty clean. Well,
Bears have some pretty. I mean, Bears have some. Yeah, they were one of the originals. So they got.
Dallas, I think Dallas has that white helmet.
Yes, Dallas
I saw.
did get a white helmet. There was a.
I mean, that's
black
okay.
helmet.
So what? Are you telling me Dallas is more traditionally or less traditional than Green Bay? I mean, I would say in terms of tradition, they're probably just about as equal as you could get.
When you say tradition,
if Jerry Jones, because that was Murph Dog's big thing was like, we're a traditional team. We're not going to get crazy with throwback helmets and alternates and all kinds of crazy shit like that.
Jerry Jones, the Cowboys as an organization, yeah, it's kind of tradition. Tom Landry and the fucking the hat and all that
the suit,
stuff, and
trench coat,
Dodger, and he was like a super, like yes, Texas, military, yeah, it's very tradition, it's very buttoned up, But Jerry Jones is very much a yeehaw kind of guns blazing, whiskey drinking, cigar smoking, coming into your town, bang bang, like that's Jerry Jones. So he's sort of kind of, and he wants to pimp it out. He wants as many jerseys.
I love it
because he wants to sell it.
I love it.
He wants it big. He wants Jerry World. We got 105-foot TV screens. We got art from all over the world. $100 million art. We got we got the retractable roof. I mean, Jerry Jones is all about it. Everything's bigger and better in Texas. I want my shit to be. We want the biggest and the best. We want the flashiest. We want the. So that's Jerry, not the Packers. That's not. No, this is for real, blue collar, lunch pail, drinking a beer, like pissing in the lake, like whatever y'all like, whatever's going on out there, man. Like shooting deer, like hunting. Fucking what's my man? I love this Charlie Burns. I mean, I've never lived in the Midwest a second in my life, but I totally get this motherfucker's humor, and it's so hilarious. And so like that's what Green Bay. That is not Texas. That's not that ain't Dallas. You know what I mean? Like that's not Jerry World. But that is Green Bay. It's all about.
Who else got some new? Who else got some new ones since we talked? I think that's it, right? Carolina, maybe. Was that a new one? The black?
There was all black helmet somebody had.
Okay. I love the NFL loosening up on this. I think it's so much fun. It's just different. It's cool. I think that, college, I think, always takes it way too far. But, I don't need a New Jersey combo every single fucking week of the season.
Team, man. That's like
no, teams, every team is doing that shit now.
Well,
it's terrible.
Oregon started.
The worst.
Oregon started.
It's the worst.
The Ducks did it first.
But just generally speaking, to sprinkle in, 3-4 weeks of some alternates, fun, man. There's a lot of good styles out there.
I just feel like
that kind of bring it.
There should be no fucking restrictions. Like the teams should be able to do whatever the hell they want. It's like the teams like, hey, this is what we want to do, and just bring it to the NFL. And as long as it's like not a dick on there, it's like okay, like. You know what I'm saying? Like as long as it's not like Nazi colors. I mean, as long as it's not something that obviously is like, okay, we cannot allow this. It's like let them do what the hell they want, man. They want to wear alternate jerseys. They want to freaking wear rainbow jerseys. What the fuck? They want to wear like, whatever. Just let teams do what the hell they want. Eventually though, I think eventually. And I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about how is the NFL going to keep making more money, and we could talk about that because the Packers, being the only team that's publicly owned, they have to release certain finances, and by taking a look at the Packers' finances, you can by process of elimination extrapolate it out and say, okay, let's time this by 32, and you can kind of figure out how much money the NFL made last year. And the Packers, I'm trying to find, I saved it under my favorites. The Packers,
500 some million.
Yeah, they went cray.
529 or something like that.
The total expenses were $500 million, including 280 of player costs, and the Packers invested $468 million in their operations during the past 11 years. Okay, that's not what I wanted for. Yeah, the team reported a record $579 million. Let me repeat, a record, meaning it's never been done before. $579 million in revenue for the 2021-22 fiscal year, which concluded in March.
That's an insane
profit
number.
And look at this profit number, 77.7. Now that's like the jackpot, baby. That's jackpot. That's the jackpot. 777. and also a record net income of $61.6 million. So yeah, they made a lot of money last year.
I mean, just real quick, if you had to take a guess at how much revenue Walmart did last year, what would you say the number is? That's right.
Like total revenue, like how the Packers did $579 million.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Walmart, I would say total revenue last year, they probably did, I would say maybe like $100 billion or some shit like that.
$176 billion.
576. So they literally did 100 times.
Dollars.
They did 100 times the amount the NFL did. Basically, the NFL did 570 million. They did 570 billion.
That's an insane number, isn't it?
500.
Maybe puts things into perspective a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the NFL's pretty.
That's a scary number.
Not like the Waltons.
Not like Amazon, 470 billion. Apple, 386.
Billions, right? With a B. Billions. But I think eventually the NFL is going to have to like super get into like. I mean, I think that's why they want another game. 18 games means more money from these TV contracts. They can spread these games around to more different networks. Amazon can have some, ABC can have some, NBC can have some, Fox can have some, hell, TNT. Who else wants some? Huh? Who else wants some of these games? Everybody can get some. So there's that. But I also think like they're gonna have to start like patches, promotions. You know, they're gonna start putting this shit on the things. You know, and I think, you know
on the field.
We were talking about, weren't we talking about this, or I was talking about this on the stream, is like when they do those slow, you know, they're doing these instant replays over and over and over again. Imagine a big ass McDonald's patch right there as they're watching this replay for the 50th time in super high def slow motion, and everybody's just seeing that McDonald's golden arch over and over and over again. It's free advertisement. It's free advertisement to just have your big ass logo, your logo, on a freaking screen for 50, 70 million people to watch every Sunday instead of just one Sunday a year. Super Bowl, every Sunday, people are going to be seeing your logo on those instant replays. And I just think I was like, to me, that seems like the next step, and I wonder how much that's worth to these teams. You know, because if you're gonna pay $5 million for a Super Bowl ad for 30 seconds, I mean, like sometimes these instant replays can go on for 2 minutes, and we're just watching the same.
Yeah.
You know, that's free marketing right there, baby. Put it into people's faces.
I think it'd be interesting to see where the breakdown of revenue comes from. There's got to be like a detailed financial statement, but we should dig into that and recap it a little bit next week. That's an interesting topic, though.
Yeah, the money. Where's follow the money?
Yep.
I mean, we're way over it, and I'll let you go. Look, but I did next week, man. We got to talk about this Kyler Murray contract because I think that was interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure, we do.
To me, honestly, I'll take that as another exhibit, another piece of evidence for my case of this new generation of players.
Yep.
Man. All right, that's it for this week's show. That's a little teaser for next time.
Teaser.
Episode 33. Hey, we got some good...
I got some. One just popped in my head.
Well, you know, mine's is good.
Actually, the one that I'm thinking of changed his number at one point in his career.
Ooh, that's a nice little teaser. Okay, so
from 33 to 30. We'll see if you can figure it out.
You kind of gave it away, but that's a great one. That was a great one. You're right. I forgot about that. I think it's the man I'm thinking of. But we'll discuss that next week. Who that could be, and just make sure to follow Tom on Twitter, the GB House, and on Instagram,
correct,
the Green Bay House, all spelled out. You follow me. What's_Packin, no G, just Packin. Packin. Got a little flavor on that thing. I think that's it, man. Until the next show, everybody, appreciate you. Go Pack, go, and remember, the Bears, even with those fresh orange unis, Still suck. They still suck. Peace.
All right. See you, dog.
See you, man.